The world of woke is about as woke as it's ever been, certainly when it gets to Cambridge University. And it also does have a problem in schools because, of course, an independent panel of experts assembled by the Department for Education this summer will assess the state of relationships and sex education. We're going to talk now to Clare, founder of No Secret Lessons, a parent-led campaign for transparency in UK schools. She's got a piece in The Spectator this week, and she's warning of the dangers of the schools being allowed to do whatever the hell they like. Clare, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
So you're looking for greater transparency in schools. Why do you think they're not as transparent as they ought to be?
That's a good question. I think partly it's because there are outside providers who are visiting the schools.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to protect their intellectual property and to keep that secret. And I actually went through a court case that sort of established the fact, sadly, that they do have the right to do that. And so the schools don't necessarily always have the information themselves, and it belongs to the third-party provider.
Which is an extraordinary situation. It wouldn't really happen in any other situation, would it?
I can't believe it happens in this situation. Yes, I'm really surprised. I mean, it's very, the guidance that's issued by the Department for Education is very clear in favouring transparency and suggesting that parents should have the right to see things. And yet this seems to get around that guidance.
Yeah, I mean, we had that bizarre story, didn't we? I think it was week before last of the preschool, the kindergarten, in fact, up in Hull, where they were showing 4-year-olds a book about the Pride Grandad, while the Pride Grandad was parading around in sort of S&M bondage gear with his partner. And you just think, what on earth are they thinking? Who in their right mind would think that that's a good book to show to a 4-year-old?
Well, there is a significant radical movement that I think wants to influence, particularly RSE, so that's relationships and sex education, and some of the thinking behind that is coming from quite radical academia. And so when you actually look into the sources of this information and what it means, it's really way beyond, I think, what the general public realises, and certainly beyond what I think the majority of parents would accept.
And why do you think they're doing that? Because I asked this question at the time, and I know there are many other examples of this type of material, not just that particular book, but I was asking the question at the time, what sort of people want to push this agenda on children?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, isn't it? I think there are a lot more people who are doing this who don't fully understand what they're doing. And I think that's really important. I think there are a lot of first of all, there are a lot of teachers who don't want to teach this, but feel that they ought to because there's guidance and there are external charities who are advising they must. Then there's a group of people, I think, who believe that it's about social justice, and they're very sure that all matters of social justice can only be good, and so they pass that on. And then I think there are genuinely some people who have, let's say, a malevolent intent. And some of those people, you don't need very many of those people to be shaping the education somewhere in the channel to, of command, if you like, to actually affect a very wide area. And it gets passed on with well-meaning by people who don't realise actually what they're doing.
Because that is the problem, isn't it? And you see it in a lot of areas where we've seen this Stonewall kind of, league table of companies or colleges or whatever it is, because it's the people who are kind of going along with it who think they're doing the right thing somehow.
Exactly. And I think that we really need to be able to talk about child safeguarding without being worried about what it means for identity politics, what it means for social justice. Those matters can be discussed, but child safeguarding has to come first. And we need to be able to put that, put it to one side and talk about social justice, as a secondary point. And that's what's not happening. And because people are so concerned, for example, particularly about LGBTQ plus equality, they are looking for materials that they can, let's say, virtue signal or demonstrate that they're doing the right thing by being inclusive, and they're not really reading into to what those materials are. And very often those materials, they might not even really be representing LGBTQ interests, actually.
Yes, and some of the questions that are put to children you've included in this piece in The Spectator, including the School of Sexuality Education offering online lessons around that sex education series that's on Netflix, which is sort of designed for people of 18 years and older, isn't it?
Yeah, the film is for 18 plus, or the series is for 18 plus, and yet the lessons actually require children or teenagers to go and watch that in order to answer the questions that they're being given.
Right.
So right off the bat, the company seems not to understand age appropriateness or to take care of children's innocence.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, a lot of the academia talks about actually discarding the concept of childhood innocence, which, again, I feel is a very worrying move and something that probably the public at large isn't okay with.
Yes, I think that's right. Certainly not most parents, I would definitely suggest. And so this Department of Education panel of experts, what are you hoping for them to kind of come out of the other end of this with?
Yeah, well, the panel of experts are not actually making the RSHE review. What they're doing is going to advise the DfE on age appropriateness, and then the DfE will actually make the final decisions about the changes. What's concerning is that I'm hearing that possibly the findings of the independent panel might not be made public. And so the DfE will receive some advice, and then they will go ahead and make their decisions, and we won't get to know exactly what the independent panel has seen, what they're concerned about, and what their advice is. And so we won't be able to make a decision as to whether the Department for Education has come up with good solutions or not.
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, with hopefully a following wind, you'll be coming out the other end of this with a much better idea of what it is that children are being taught, and a much better way for parents to discover what that is as well.
Well, I'm not sure that we will get that out of the RSHE review. I really hope we do. But what I'm calling for, which I think would be one of the best ways to get a good result, is to just change the law, to make an amendment to the Education Act, and to simply say that all schools' materials should just be published and open to scrutiny, to the public scrutiny. And that way, we can correct things that go wrong by parents stepping in, making formal complaints, talking to each other about what's going on, and just getting some sunlight onto it.